Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming back. Thanks for coming in tonight if you've never seen us before. This is a lovely group of people, old souls. My name is Cindy. If you've never seen me before, I am at Simply Cindy. I'm a psychic medium. I love astrology. It's a passion of mine. I have lots of tools in my basket. I do lots of things. The other thing about this group, if you've never been here, I wear PJs, right? I wear PJs, and I'd like for everybody to wear PJs, but everybody doesn't have to wear PJs. Um, the whole point is just to be comfortable, just to be relaxed. There's enough going on in the world. We want this place to be a place where you're learning, you're bonding, you're growing together. Maybe get some answers that you've always had questions about. Um, yeah, so in order to get us into that space, so you guys are welcome to wear your robe, grab a drink, grab some coffee. I'll drink coffee. I am a Gemini sun, so I will have coffee and Dr. Pepper. It did move a little south, so that was a good thing. Lots were putting energy towards making it lessen or move across the world. Yeah, I did see that other people had the same idea that we had, and that is so great. That's what I mean about Aquarian space that we're moving into. Like you're gonna see, this is what I saw in 2007. Lots of little groups that we're all on the same page, but we keep our anonymity. Does that make a little bit more sense? It's like we all kind of have this bigger consciousness that we know, and we are just doing it in our groups. Does that make sense? Um, it's hard to explain a future when you don't have anything to like reference it. I mean, I could reference it to the old days when people were when it was smaller villages. Kind of the only thing I could reference it for, but it's more advanced than that. Um, I was wondering if the goal is to overcome letting the planets dictate your emotions and actions. Yeah. Planets don't dictate emotions, they're energy that can guide and direct. Perfect. You guys are good. You guys are good. I would say it's more to guide us. Perfect. Yep. It's kind of our perspective here in this group. This is kind of our understanding here in this group. Um, it's kind of what I'd said before. Maybe that's why I said it. I just got through saying these planets are, well, first of all, if your perception is the planets are against me, the universe is against me, I'm always being attacked, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, that you would see it that way, right? I have to overcome. I have to, it's always a struggle. It's da 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 da, right? We've sort of understood that and beyond. These planets are here to help you. They are a frequency, they're an energy. Again, as a medium, I see them as characters and they have personalities. And that's all information to help you. You don't have to overcome. So let me give you an example of what I said. Jupiter wants you to have wisdom and abundance. So Jupiter is going to help you do that, right? Pluto um, wants you to have power, wants you to recognize your power, wants you to step into your power. Um, and Uranus, what we're going to be talking about tonight, wants you to have your freedom, right? And so with these planets, if you look at them in that perspective, then you can kind of see, oh, so when Pluto takes this away from me, I can only be afraid for so long until I step up and do what my soul wants to do. Or when Jupiter needs me to understand, because Jupiter wants me to be have wisdom and abundance. In order to have this abundance, I keep doing this pattern that is not giving me my abundance. So maybe Jupiter shows me how that works so that I can step into my abundance, right? The way it's like Uranus as well. I'm going to need to step it up. I'm going to need to do something to shake it up. I'm going to need to, because Uranus is genius, electricity, freedom, revolution, all of that, right? But he wants you to have that. He wants you um, to have that freedom, to have that independence, to have that innovation, to create and to be, right? And so you use Uranus in that way. Does that make sense to you? To you? Beyond all, you have your own path and you have your own unique perspective, as so do I, and so do each one of you. And so I'm just telling you from my lens, from my perspective, from my perception, and my relationship with these planets and the universe and Mother Earth and the moon and the asteroids and the points and the black holes and the all of it, right? I'm just telling you from my perspective as a medium, and I don't see them as a hindrance. I don't see them as something to overcome. I see them as showing me what parts of me I want to understand more, and giving me a roadmap to sort of help guide me, not do it for me, but help guide me through that. Okay. But I know a lot of people who think that the world is against you, the universe is against you, Mother Earth God's against you, everybody's against you, right? And I'm nobody to say that that's wrong. That's why I say to you guys, it is beyond right or wrong. This is not about right or wrong. And when we can get beyond that, when we can get past that, there are bigger things that we can understand, right? But I get it when you want to know who's right and who's wrong, but we're sort of evolving past that point, because you're not wrong for thinking the way that you think. It is your perception, and you as a human came down here to have your own unique perception perspective, right? So it's not wrong. It's like an atheist not believing in anything bigger than himself, right? Um, at least that's my understanding of an atheist. So if your belief is that you don't understand and that you don't have any, that there's nothing bigger than you, that's not the wrong thing. It's your path. It could be because I do hypnosis. I've seen where the person was very, very religious for many, many, many lives, and has come here in this life to have the absence of religion. They wanted to experience that, to have the absence of the connection to source. They wanted to experience that. Does that make sense? Just like it's my perspective, my perception that everyone that I encounter is mirroring me, because my belief, my understanding, my unique way is that we are all one. And so we've separated, but we're not really separated. And so the people that come in front of me, the situations that come in front of me, the things that come in front of me, those are all mirroring parts of me. Does that make sense? I believe the planets are messages from heaven to help guide us and let us know that we're not alone. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah. And none of those beliefs are wrong. It's not wrong and it's not right. Right? It's your belief. And you as a human have that. You're doing what you're supposed to do, is having your perspective. Whether that's the same as society or whether that's very different than society, it's still what you've come to do, is have your perspective, right? I think of it as a roadmap. Ellen has and I have said that before. Like I see it just like a roadmap. Like your natal chart, to me, they've shown me, it's like the image I get is they took a snapshot, a picture, the moment you were born, and that's your roadmap. And then they said, here you go. These things will help you. In this group, at least, like, uh, we're not afraid. I know that we can get in our heads sometimes about things, but I think we're pretty much, let's do it and then think about it later. Get it done. Let's just get it done. Like, if you think about it, you guys have been through so much that, I mean, It's just a psychological fear if you let it get to you. But I think I was saying this last night. I already know working with Pluto, if it is the one thing that I fear, I will run to it. I will jump. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I just know to jump and do it. And it has turned out the best for me every time. If I don't, it lingers and it comes back around in a different way, and it keeps coming back around in a different way, and it keeps coming back around, right? The only way that I've been able to clear that is to jump and just do. Even if I have like no way of landing, it's like I just jump. I've just learned that, right? Like there's only so much fear you can have before you just fight back and don't have any fear. And I think this group is that. Like we have been, how do I say this? My Saturn part wants to come out and say, you have been tested. No, we have been in such fear throughout our lives. Some of us when we were very young, some of us when we were not so young, and some of us, no, let me say most of us a lot of times, right? And so it's like you can only be so, you can only have so much fear, or even fight, flight, or freeze is not working anymore. It just, you're just like, yep, whatever, let's do it, right? You just don't, you get so afraid, and you get so afraid so many times that you're like, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm just not afraid anymore, right? You're not in the wrong space. You're in the right space. And here's the thing, Kathy, Mama Otto. Some of y'all had not even allowed yourself to be in those spaces and heal those parts, or realign those parts, or even look at those parts. Like some of you never got to grieve. Some of you never got to cry. Some of you never got to do that stuff. You weren't allowed. You didn't know how. You'd forgotten because it was beaten out of you, or you were told not to, or you were made not to, right? Like, and so you grow up like this, and then it becomes the habit. And so anytime you have an emotional anything, you shut it down to protect yourself, right? And so some of you need to be in that space where you're just you're finally validating what you feel. Most of you never got to validate how you feel. You were never validated, and you never validated yourself either. And you didn't validate yourself because you didn't know how. You weren't taught. You weren't allowed. You didn't even get to look at that because you weren't allowed, right? And so now is the time to be able to validate all of that. Now is the time to, that's what I mean when I tell you guys to be gentle with yourself. If you're going to be a crybaby, be a crybaby. So what? Validate your feeling. A feeling is a feeling. An emotion is an emotion. Validate it. Don't say, oh, get over it already. Or, oh, I mean, I used to do that to myself. Like, I remember I used to say, oh my God, I can't stand my Aquarius side right now. Like, I get on my own nerves. And that's because I didn't get to validate those feelings, right? And so to protect myself, it was like, keep moving. Keep Texas. If you're from Texas, if you're born in Texas, you know how they are. Gen X, you know how they are. You break a leg, you break an arm, yeah, rub it off, keep going. Like dust it off and keep it going. You never got to validate your feelings. There's nothing wrong. In fact, there's everything right, especially in a trine like this, to validate your feeling, validate your emotion. So what? Who cares if, and this is just an example, who cares if you're jealous of somebody else? Just because society says you shouldn't be and you should be the bigger person? How many times do I have to tell you, look where society's at? Do you think they did the right thing? No. Validate your feeling. Understand why it's there. and then say, okay, do I want to continue this or do I want to grow from this? But you haven't even looked at it or allowed yourself to sit in it to be able to work through it. You're all of us have got these things in our head through generations. Don't be a wuss. Don't be too soft. Don't be too loving. Don't be too clingy. Don't be too happy. Don't be too. I told you, do not dim your light. Don't dim the light. Shine bright. And if that means I need to have a breakdown for a month, for a day, for an hour, for a week, for 2 years, then that's what that means for me to realign. The fact that you are not allowing yourself, you're not going to be able to move through this. You just have to validate you. I have been validating. I love you guys. Holly said, I have been validating myself all day. What a mess. So what? So you're a mess. So what? Look at me. Look, like, so what? So what if you're a mess? Be the beautiful mess. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if you're worried about what society's going to say, who cares what society says? They're so messed up right now. Like, our society needs so much help. I don't care what they think of me. I don't care. You all have been through so much. Why do you care what they think? You shouldn't. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares if you don't brush your hair? Who cares if you're crying? Who cares if you're laughing? Who cares? First of all, it's nobody's business. I want you to be your authentic. This is the space that we have been in that they're trying to get us through. And by they, I mean your higher selves, source, these planets, the universe, Mother Earth. Okay? All of it. I told you, we are moving to a space where we all want the space that we dream of, this vision that we see of how we want to live together, how we want to live together on this earth. And that requires authenticity. That's the space that we're moving to. Okay, authenticity. But you cannot be authentic if you don't even know yourself. You cannot be authentic if you've never allowed yourself to have your feelings. This is the big Saturn in Pisces, right? Neptune in Pisces. Pluto going into Aquarius, right? This North Node in Aries. Who am I? Who am I? When I try to be myself, society, Chiron, when I try to be what I really want to be, I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed either because society says, I'm not allowed because I don't have the resources, I'm not allowed because I don't think I'm smart enough, I'm not allowed because I've never had the opportunity, I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed, I'm not allowed, I'm not allowed. There's a wound there that we are trying to heal. All of us. To move, we've moved into this new space. We are going into authenticity because that's how we see the world, like in our future. That's what we envision. That's what we want. We don't care what each of us does as long as nobody harms each other, one another, as long as people aren't harming one another. We know that we can live better. We know that we don't have to have all these rules. We know, but it's almost like we can see ourselves being authentic, but we don't even know what that is because we have all these masks. We have to, I got to be better. I got to do better. Oh, I can't say that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I'm going to offend somebody. Fuck that. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? We have been told for so long that we must care. But guess where that got us? Look at the mess we're in. The only way to be is to be your true self. But you need to know what that is. And that's what we're going through. To be your true self. Does that all make sense to you guys? Authenticity. I can do that. It is dealing with insurance and doctors that makes me feel like I'm building sand castles with dry sand. I know. Chance, you're not telling me anything new. I know. It's why I left the healthcare industry. It's why I left it. I first of all, they're not there to cure you. They never said they were. It changed in 1973. 1973 with the Rockefellers, with the letter. They're not there to cure you. They're not there. They're not even there. Hmm. I'm not saying there aren't good souls because there are a lot of good souls in healthcare, right? But they have had their heads down like everybody else in society. They have been taught to be in a box and they've had their heads down because they're overworked. Let's keep them busy so they don't ask questions, right? Let's keep them busy so they don't ask questions. And the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies, they're all there. Money, 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 right? Like, we have plants. Don't get me started on these herbs. We have plants. I know for a fact. I'm going to tell you from my point of view. You guys know I have lupus. Well, officially I have lupus, but you can't even see it. So I don't know. I don't think I have lupus anymore, but there's no such thing as you don't think you have it anymore. So whatever, right? I thought everybody knew this, but when I said this to somebody the other day, they said they'd never heard this, okay, from me. So I'm going to say this again. I was once on 30 pills a day. You know how many I take now? Since I went through my whole thing with herbs. Thank God for my mother. Thank God I knew herbs. Then I studied herbalism, as well as knowing the folk part of it because of my mother, right? Because that's what I do. I research the shit out of something until I completely understand it. And in that journey, do you know how many I take now? I take zero. I take zero. And that is fighting with my doctors at some points during my treatment where I'm like, I'm not doing this. I don't care what y'all say. I'm not doing this. Or finding good doctors that would work with me. And luckily I know what I'm talking about. So I would say, if something came up, I'd say, give me 2 weeks, give me 3 weeks. Let's see what we can do. And they would work with me. Right? So I know for a fact it's not just in the books, and it's not just what my grandmother told me, and it's not just what my mother told me, even though I would trust all of that. It's not just in the books. I've lived it. 30 pills to nothing. And I can hike mountains. And I can work out. And I'm not on needing, oxygen. And I'm not needing anything. And if I do happen to have a flare because I have a wound that comes up emotionally, and then, something comes out, or I happen to go in the sun and something, comes up, I know exactly what to do. Herbs are not the herbs, God, source, our higher selves, this earth, these planets, this universe has given us everything that we need on this planet to not just survive, but to thrive. Everything. Okay? Now me, not just me personally, and I can't say this publicly because they don't want you guys knowing. So I always have to put it on me. But remember that I have a science background and I like to come with evidence. So if you can just imagine that I probably have evidence of a lot of things that I cannot say. Does that make sense? These herbs are here and they're here to help, and they're not pharmaceuticals where you need to take them for the rest of your life. They're here until you don't need them anymore, and all of a sudden you'll just be like, oh, I don't need that anymore because you're aligned, and then emotionally you've gone through this. This is my work. This is why I put you under, so that you have the connection and you understand. And then we use the herbs as sort of the bridge until your body makes that the habit. Does that make sense? I was a pharmacy tech for 14 years. I watched meds take people down. So happy cancer made me quit that job. One good thing came of it. Yep, absolutely. I so want to say, if you work with me, then I can say these things to you, but I cannot say them in public like this. Um, yeah, this is the other stuff that I'm talking about in the membership too. Like, I just can't say it at this point. Yeah, no echinacea. And here's the thing: I make one of the best elderberry syrups. In fact, I'm making elderberry gummies and syrups for you guys. If you guys want to, yeah, for you guys. So I'm making a big batch, right? And I make the best elderberry with a whole bunch of good stuff in it, right? Both for men and women. It tastes so good. It's like the best. And I can't partake because anybody that has any issues with autoimmune should not be taking elderberry. And here's the other thing, and I'm going to say it because you guys can read between the lines, right? If I didn't have an autoimmune, then I would be taking elderberry, my elderberry. And what a lot of people don't understand is that echinacea or elderberry, either one, when you begin to get a cold or the flu or the other thing, you must stop taking those things. Those are only maintenance things, right? Because what elderberry will do will make it worse. Okay, just like it's the reason you don't want people with autoimmune on it either, because it just makes you flare. It makes it worse. So if I had an autoimmune, I would not take elderberry and I would not take echinacea. I have my own thing that I take, and it's a great combination. And I'm making that also because some of you may have diabetes, some of you may have lupus, some of you may have MS, some of you may have some autoimmune going on, right? And so I've got this other thing that I've put together, right? Um, but just know, and this is something herbalists don't really say, and the medical field's not going to tell you because they don't freaking know. But if you're taking elderberry, when you begin to come down with something, stop the elderberry. If you're taking echinacea, stop, because it'll make it worse. Okay. So here's the thing I'm going to tell you guys too. Now, I would be interested to see if it works around Polly and Chance because they have a lot of land, right? Or they're looking for a lot of land, or do you have a lot of land already? Um, but this is what I've found in my experience. And a lot of herbalists have seen this as well. And we're all starting to kind of take notice of this. But if you were to go outside, if you have yards, and look to see what's out there, like what's growing. 9 times out of 10, it's the weeds that they call them weeds and herbs that you're needing. So, for example, right before COVID hit, all of us, like herbalists, were talking to each other, and I was seeing it too, that there was a lot of mullein, right? It was just growing, growing, growing. Like it was a big, huge harvest. And I remember one of the facilities was like, it's so much. I don't know what's going on. Um, and mullein is very good for lungs, very good for the deep, deep, deep lung, right? Um, and it was like, there was so much overgrowth of mullein everywhere that a lot of herbalists were noticing it. And sure enough, like it was crazy how much mullein there was. And sure enough, some of them were asking questions. They were like, why is there a lot of mullein? And then sure enough, we had COVID hit, right? I'm telling you, they don't want you to know this stuff, but Mother Earth knows exactly. So I always say when I'm starting to work with somebody and we're working with herbs, I always say, I want to know what's going around your house. I need to know what's growing around your house, especially if they're weeds. Because think of a weed; it's like coming up. It's trying to get your attention, right? And so there's apps where you can download and just take a picture, and they'll tell you what it is. So I would check around you and see what's growing, right?